Good day everyone, welcome to STM007 or General Biology 1. Today we're going to discuss module number 17, which is about the structures and functions of biological molecules. Today we're going to focus on carbohydrates. So before we begin, let us have our lesson objectives. The first one is, you will be able to describe the different types and functions of carbohydrates, and that also, at the end of this lesson, you can also identify the type of carbohydrate present in a specific food. So, can our body live without sugar? Sugar can be found in everything that we eat. It could be found in the soda, cookies, candies, chocolate, or basically any type of dessert, sugary cereals, ice cream, and even in our favorite milk tea. So, carbohydrate is taken from two words, carbo meaning carbon compounds and hydrate meaning water. So these are carbon compounds which are made up of carbon with water. The ratio of carbon and water is 1:1. This is generally true to all forms of carbohydrates. So carbohydrates give the body energy. They are the best source of fuel for the body, and carbohydrates also help to digest protein and fat. Now, the energy that is stored in the food that we eat, we call that chemical energy, comes from the chemical bond that is present from the carbon-to-carbon bond of these substances. Now, carbohydrate is said to be the best source of fuel for the body because carbohydrate is the simplest among the different biomolecules that can be found in the body. So, what are its function sa ating katawan? Number 1, it provides our body with energy and it regulates the blood sugar. It spares the use of proteins for energy, and it breaks down fatty acids and prevents ketosis. So, unahin natin yung doon sa pinakaumpisa. Now, the food that we eat, mainly composed of sugar products, these are carbohydrates, provides the body with the energy that we need. So, even the contraction ng muscles natin, kailangan niya ng energy, kailangan niya ng ATP. So, ibig sabihin, yung carbohydrates, these are the substances which are converted into the energy currency of the cell, which is the ATP. Now, when converted, it enables our body to function properly. Kasi hindi makakapag-function yung katawan natin kapag wala siyang energy or kapag hindi sapat ang energy. Next is, it regulates the blood glucose. This is because our blood definitely needs amount of sugar in order for the components to have a source of energy, a source of nutrient. Next, sparing the use of proteins for energy. Kasi as much as possible, our body makes use of carbohydrates as a source of energy. Bakit? Kasi mas madali ma-replenish ang carbohydrates kapag ginamit. Once you have used up your carbohydrate, tapos kapag kumain ka, it is easily replenished. So, ibig sabihin nun, yung fats natin, tapos yung proteins natin, hindi siya masyadong magagamit. Bakit hindi kailangan gamitin yung protein or yung fat? That is because proteins can also be a source of energy. That's true. However, mas importanteng function ang protein sa katawan natin than being a source of energy. An example of this is it makes up our muscles. It is also used as an enzyme in the body. So, kapag kulang ka sa muscles, kapag kulang ka sa protein, kasi ginamit ng katawan mo yung protein as a source of energy, then ano mangyayari sa katawan mo? Manghihina ka. Movement will be a hassle. Tapos, yung mga enzymes which controls the different parts of your body, like growth, metabolism, and whatnot, may hinder yung kanilang progress sa katawan mo. So this is also one of the reasons kung bakit yung mga tao na kulang sa food ay masyadong payat because their body is making use of protein as a source of energy. Also, hindi sila well-developed. Lalong-lalo na yung kanilang secondary sex characteristics like enlarging of the breast for female and bulking of the muscles for male. Dahil ginagamit yung protein sa katawan nila as a source of energy, hindi masyadong nade-develop. And then lastly, it aids in the breakdown of fatty acids and prevents ketosis. Ano ba yung fatty acids? It is also one of the 4 biological molecules na kung saan pwede rin siyang gamitin as a source of energy. So, yung fats. Yun nga lang kasi, may mga different purposes din yung fat sa katawan natin. One example is that it is necessary to insulate our body para hindi ka malamigan, hindi ka madaling ginawin. Kasi it regulates the heat in our body. Aside from that, ito yung substance na kung saan it makes sure that your organs are placed properly inside your body. So, for example, your kidneys. Your kidneys, madaling magkaroon ng damage yan. So, what takes care of these kidneys and what keeps them in place is the fat. Ito yung dahilan kung bakit yung mga taong may diabetes, ito yung mga tao na hindi nakakagamit ng carbohydrate as a source of energy, kaya ang ginagamit ng katawan nila ay protein or fat. They have to make sure that ang diet nila sa kanilang pang-araw-araw ay may nakahalong mayo or mayonnaise para ma-replace yung fats na ginagamit ng katawan natin as a source of energy. Ketosis, ito yung sakit na kung saan mataas yung ketone content. Nangyayari ito kapag ang ginagamit ng katawan natin as a source of energy is fat. So, by preventing the use of fat as a source of energy, we also prevent ketosis. So, did you know that 45 to 65% of our food should come from carbohydrates? If you can remember our food pyramid, laging nasa base ang carbohydrates. So, as you can see also in this graph, in this pie chart, carbohydrate makes up the majority of this pie chart. Ibig sabihin, mas kailangan na marami tayong ma-consume na carbohydrate as compared to proteins and fats. So, ibig bang sabihin nun ay kailangan panay carbohydrate or sugary foods ang kainin natin? If we eat more carbohydrates than are needed for energy, the extra is stored in the liver or in the tissues as fat. So, ibig sabihin nun, kapag masyado tayong kinakain na sugary products, hindi naman pwede na yung katawan natin ay itapon na lang basta-basta yung carbohydrate. Carbohydrate is a source of energy, so hindi siya pwedeng basta-basta na lang na i-discard sa katawan natin. So, what will happen? It will be stored in our body. First, yung ating glucose, it is one of the simplest form of carbohydrate. Yung glucose, it will be turned into glycogen through the action of insulin. So, kapag mataas yung blood sugar natin, yung insulin sa pancreas, ma-release, at ang mangyayari, it will act upon the glucose in the blood in order to balance out the amount of sugar or glucose in our body, and it will store the extra sugar in the body, in the liver, as glycogen. Okay? Or, if there's still extra sugar in the blood, tapos marami ka ng stored glycogen sa katawan, then the sugar will be converted into fat. This is why those who consume sugary products are more prone to be fat or nagiging overweight. So, carbohydrates are grains, fruits, vegetables, legumes, and sugar. Now we go to the different types of carbohydrates. There are 2 types. First one is simple. Now, simple carbohydrates are quick energy sources. Ibig sabihin, madali siyang i-digest ng katawan natin. They usually come from sugar. And they do not usually supply any other nutrients or fiber. As in, pure carbohydrates lang siya, purely intended as an energy source. Aside from that, it could also be found in foods such as fruits, vegetables, milk, and other milk products. Okay, so ito yung sinasabi natin, glucose, fructose, and galactose. So glucose or the blood sugar is the basic source of energy for all living things. This is glucose. If you're going to count this, meron tayong 6 carbon, 12 hydrogen, and 6 oxygen. Yung bawat H dito sa ating circular carbon, we also call it cyclic carbon, it represents 1 carbon. So in this case, meron tayong 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then pang-anim yung nandito. So we have 6, carbon. Fructose is the sugar found in fruits, honey, and vegetables. So this is fructose. Kagaya ng sa glucose, same siya ng chemical formula. It is also C6H12O6. Yun nga lang, nagkaiba lang sila sa kanilang structure. So they have the same chemical formula but they have different structure. So if glucose has 6 sides, so fructose naman we have 5 sides. Next, we have galactose. Galactose can be found in dairy products, avocado, sugar beets, and other gum and mucilages. So this is the galactose. Kung makikita nyo, para lang siyang mirror image ng glucose. We call them enantiomers. Okay lang kaya hindi nyo masyado maalala yung term. So there are simple sugars, we call them monosaccharide. Mono meaning one. Saccharide comes from the term saccharin, which means sugar. So monosaccharide means one sugar unit. Ang example nito ay yung kanina. We have pentose, glucose, ribose, galactose, triose, lahat ng mga simple sugar na kung saan sila ay gawa sa isang sugar unit, we call them monosaccharide. What about sugar units na gawa sa dalawang saccharin units or gawa sa dalawang sugar units? Now, disaccharides are formed when two monosaccharides are joined. An example of these are sucrose, maltose, and lactose. So sucrose is our table sugar. It is a combination of glucose and fructose. It could also come from sugar beets or sugar cane. Next, we have maltose. Maltose is a combination of two glucose units. It can be found as grain starch, which could be broken down into sugar or glucose. Lastly, we have lactose. This is a combination of glucose and galactose. This could be found in milk. Next, aside from the simple carbohydrates, which are composed of monosaccharides and disaccharides, we now go to complex carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates supply longer-lasting energy, as well as other nutrients and fiber that the body needs. They are a better choice. Bakit kaya sila naging better choice? That is because simple sugars or simple carbohydrates are mainly used for energy lang. So, pang energy source lang sila. Samantalang kapag complex carbohydrates naman, siya yung nagsusupply ng energy na kung saan pang matagalan yung energy na sinusupply nila. And maliban dyan, they could also be found as fibers. When we say fibers, this is the one that aids our body in digesting the food that we eat. So, ang examples ito ay oats, brown rice, white potatoes, whole wheat bread, pumpkins, grains, peas, and whatnot. Kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina, ang food na kinakain natin, they supply our body with chemical energy. Chemical energy is stored in the carbon-to-carbon bonds found in the carbohydrates. Kapag yung simple sugar kasi, we have only 1 or 2 sugar units, kukunti lang yung ating energy na makukuha. Madali siyang ma-digest, pero kukunti lang yung energy na makukuha natin kasi napaka-simple ng mga sugars natin. Kapag complex carbohydrates naman, since this is made up of 3 or more sugar units, mas maraming naka-store na chemical energy dun sa mga sugar. So, ibig sabihin, mas marami siyang energy na mapoproduce. Also, they are the most abundant carbohydrate found in food, and that they come from starchy foods, kagaya ng whole grains, flour, seeds, nuts, vegetables, and fruits. There are different sources of carbohydrates. There could be good ones, there could be bad ones. Good sources of carbohydrates come from vegetables, whole fruits, legumes, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. So technically speaking, when it comes to looking for good sources of carbohydrates, we need only to look at the nature. Kasi kadalasan, kapag nanggaling sa nature, mas healthy siya na choice. So good carbohydrates aids weight loss. Bakit nga ba? This is because these good carbohydrates are technically complex carbohydrates. Given that they are complex, kailangan siyang i-break down ng matagal. Aside from that, kapag kumain ka kasi ng good carbohydrates, ito yung mga complex carbohydrates, kailangan pa nating i-break down yan. Tapos, kapag kumain ka ng equal amounts ng simple sugar at complex sugar, mas marami kang maproproduce na energy doon sa complex carbohydrates as compared to simple carbohydrates. Kaya, it is also good for weight loss. What about unhealthy carbohydrate foods? Ito yung mga kadalasan na sweets. Ito yung mga kadalasan na makikita sa mga junk foods. So, they could include sugary cereals, crackers, cakes, pies, cookies, jams, preserved breads, and whatnot. So, these are unhealthy choices. Bakit? They are mostly made up of simple carbohydrates, given that kapag kumain ka ng equal amounts ng simple carbohydrate at ng complex carbohydrate, you'll be able to produce more energy by consuming the complex carbohydrate. Aside from that, how can we determine if a substance is composed of a simple carbohydrate or a complex carbohydrate? Kadalasan kasi kapag simple carbohydrate, napakatamis ng kanilang taste. So that means they're too sweet to taste. Kasi nabe-breakdown agad siya ng laway natin. The other term for sugar is amylose. Our saliva has amylase in them. Amylase meaning amyl, coming from the word amylose, sugar. A-S-E ang dulo. So, ibig sabihin, isa siyang enzyme. So, this is the enzyme that works specifically for the breakdown of sugar. Kaya nalalasahan natin agad yung mga simple carbohydrates. Samantalang yung mga complex carbohydrates, hindi siya ganun katamis. Ibig sabihin, faint lang yung kanilang pagkatamis or they do not taste anything at all. The more carbon that a substance has, the lesser yung kanyang pagkatamis. Kapag mas konti, mas matamis. Kapag mas marami, nawawala na ng lasa. Healthy high carbohydrate foods include vegetables, legumes, whole grains, fruits, nuts, corns, beans, potatoes, and yogurt. Okay? So, learning how to balance your intake of carbohydrates can keep your body fueled while you manage to lose weight. That's why those who are dieting should still eat. Kasi kapag sabi natin diet, hindi ibig sabihin na hindi nakakain. Ibig sabihin, ima-manage lang kung ano yung kinakain. So, it means they should still eat. Pero, they have to watch out what they're eating. They have to make sure na ang kinakain nila ay yung mga good carbs at iwasan nila yung bad carbs. Good carbs, complex carbohydrates. Bad carbs, ito yung mga matatamis sa pagkain. So what are the different types of carbohydrates? We have sugar. These are the simple carbohydrates. Next, we have starches. They take longer to convert into energy. And then we have fibers, or the carbohydrates which cannot be digested or used for energy. Example of these are beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds. Another example is the vegetable that you eat. Bakit kaya? Kasi dun sa vegetables na yun, they are made up of cellulose. Cellulose is a type of carbohydrate. To be specific, these are composed of polysaccharides. Poly meaning many, saccharide meaning sugar. So, polysaccharides are composed of many units of sugar. Now, these polysaccharides such as cellulose, hindi siya kayang i-digest ng katawan natin. Hindi tayo kagaya ng mga goat, ng cows, ng mga herbivores na kung saan kayang i-digest ng katawan nila yung cellulose. Tayo, hindi natin kayang i-digest yun. So, we cannot get energy from fiber. However, this is still good because it aids in the digestion of food. Ito yung dahilan kung bakit yung mga tao na kumakain ng fiber or mga fiber-rich foods ay mas regular ang kanilang bowel movement. Okay, so that's it for module number 17, which is about carbohydrates.